Hello everyone, this is Moving Mark back out on the route again. I'm in Springfield, Missouri, here with my next episode of Moving Mark's Route 66 Spotlight. And this is a unique video. I'm standing here with two spotlights instead of the normal one that I've been doing. We've got a dynamic duo right here, all three of us wearing the shirts that will be discussed a little bit later. But I'm going to let them introduce themselves, tell us a little bit about themselves, how they're related to the route, and maybe some personal relations as far as the route and what the route means to them. Which one of you would like to start?
I guess that would be me. I'm Richard Walker. I moved to Springfield, Missouri in 1984. So that's kind of what got me interested in Route 66, is being on the police department here. I worked a lot of the areas where 66 had gone through town. And I was always fascinated with the little neighborhood gas station buildings, and all the way down Glenstone and Kearney, it was just one small motel after another, and they were all from the 66 era. And we worked a lot of calls in those, and I was always kind of fascinated with the way the buildings were built. And you go from one building to the next in the completely different architecture of either Ozark stone or wood frame or brick, and each of them were unique in their own right. But that and the drive-in theaters that were on 66 here in town, those things just always were an interest to me. And I think I'm like thousands of other 66 fans. It reminded you of being a kid, and remember going in the old gas stations that had the screen door with the big wide metal push bar that was a different type, usually a bread company, but it was Wholesome Bread or Wonder Bread, and the same with the motels. When I was a kid, we didn't really travel, and I don't remember staying in motels, but it's what I remembered motels being when I was a kid. And same with the restaurants, you know, just the old greasy spoons that you could go in and buy your comfort food. And it wasn't chain, and it didn't come in a paper bag, and you didn't get it in your car window. You had to go in and sit down at sometimes kind of a greasy table, and but that's the kind of food I loved, and it reminded me of being a kid and growing up. So that kind of piqued my interest. And so I think it was about 2009 or 2010, I decided I was going to start traveling the route. And originally I'd planned on just doing it from Chicago to LA on my motorcycle. Okay. So a friend of mine and myself, we started doing the route, and Judy really didn't have any interest in it till I made my first big trip, and I was gone 2 or 3 days, come home with 10 pictures if I remember right, and those 10 pictures piqued her interest enough that we kind of started over in the car, and now we've done the whole route and several parts of it many times over. But I'm hoping that we're not going to start losing the momentum of its popularity, because to me a lot of the draw is people our age that remembers kids, and it brings back all those kid memories, and kids now, much younger than you, or not much less younger than you and I, they don't have those memories. You know, their memories are pulling into 7-Eleven for a Slurpee, and Holiday Inns, and you know, all the chains. So I'm hoping that we can keep interest in it and start getting the younger generations active in wanting to go up and down the road and look at this stuff.
Well, you mentioned something as far as the youth of today, or the young people of today, not having the memories of old Route 66. How can we create new memories for those people along Route 66?
I can answer that. I'm Judy from RJ's Route 66. I volunteered to answer that question because I have taken my granddaughter Amelie, who is 8 now, on Route 66, and I've let her have some of the say in it of what we're going to do, where we're going to stay, and we talk about things as we go, and we talk about when we go through towns that are full of businesses but almost all of them are empty. We've talked about how the interstate, you know, even though it may have been a necessity to get lots of people to and from a place faster, it really damaged the lives and everybody's income. Everybody put their hopes and dreams in these buildings along Route 66, and their dreams were lost because of, you know, their lost business, and so that really affected people. But she is in love with it, and if we can not force it on them, but yet show them Route 66 and in an enjoyable way, and throw some fun things in there, things like that, that will keep their interest up.
Well, I think a prime example I like to use is Arcadia, Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. You got a 100-plus-year-old round red barn, and up the street a block you've got a ultra-modern convenience store, restaurant that sells hundreds of flavors of soda.
Yes.
You can stop in there. So you got a 100-year-old icon on Route 66. You got that new icon on Route 66, and I think that's the key in making them both jive together.
Yes.
So, talking about your granddaughter, taking her, which, by the way, you don't look old enough to have a granddaughter. But,
thank you.
You are you're instilling those memories in her to where maybe she can continue that down the other road.
Yes.
Are there any influencers that both of you have had along the route that have been idols or people that you look up to that have helped you get to this point today?
Well, I'll kind of start out this and I'll let Richard say, but actually he's the one that got me started. When he first started talking about it, I'm like, I don't want to see a bunch of falling down buildings and some dirt road, and you know, I just didn't have a good mental picture of what it was going to be like. And I'm like, no, you go ahead. And we always agree on vacations and what we want to do. Like some couples, that's they don't want to do the same things, but we always do. And that was the first time we didn't agree, until he came back with those pictures. And I'm like, take some pictures for me. And he usually doesn't take many. You know, I guess it's hard on a motorcycle. But he did take 10 pictures for me. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I got to do this. But besides Richard, the first person I met that I really kind of fell in love with is Gary Turner. And like he was so sweet and charming, and there's others along the route that knew him a lot longer and everything, but he was a sweetheart, and I can't imagine anybody out there would have ever disliked him. I'm sure everybody loved him. He was a sweetheart. And after that, a couple years after that, we also met Angel in Seligman, and you can just feel, I asked him one day, I said, how are you doing? And he's like, I'm happy. And I could feel it, you know, I could feel his happiness, and that's the people of Route 66, you know, the real people. And I'll let Richard.
Well, that's just another thing that is the draw to Route 66. It's not just the buildings and the historical highway. And one of the things I really enjoy is parts of the highway where it's the original concrete and it's still got the lip on the side that everybody cussed when that was on the highway, because you catch it with your tires and kind of whip back and forth. But to see that stuff is really cool. But the people up and down Route 66 is what really keeps our interest in it, all the way from Chicago to Santa Monica. There's people that we consider dear friends that we didn't know 10 years ago, and it's just through Route 66 we've met them.
Both of y'all are now, Judy especially this go around, is actively involved in a preservation project along Route 66. Richard, Judy, would you like to discuss that project that I'm referring to out west?
I'll let you go.
Well, it's called the Painted Desert Trading Post, and there are 9 of us that are owners of the property. It had became really to the point where it was about to fall in. The roof, most of it was gone. The walls were starting to fall off the foundation and lean out. And I really think another 2 to 4 years it would have fell on the ground. And I think one of the things that makes the Painted Desert Trading Post one of the icons on Route 66 is it's just out in the middle of nowhere. And for years, most people that's traveling Route 66, they see all they can, but when they got to that point, it was the old 2-lane that went across the desert near the Painted Desert. And when they opened the interstate, because it was surrounded by private property, they put up fences and gates, and it's about a 2.5-mile trek from the gate down to the trading post. So most people didn't want to make a 5-mile walk through the desert to go see an old empty building, and so it's just kind of a time capsule. It's just sat there pretty much untouched from the day that the owners walked away from it. But we went together, we bought the building and the property it sits on, and through fundraisers and generous donations from dozens and dozens of people, we've been able to put a new roof on it, jack the building up, put a new foundation under it, and now we're getting to the point where we're doing cosmetic work like stucco and the window and door openings and that type of thing. But the way the building sits now, I feel confident it'll last another 30 or 40 years. So it's just something we're doing. We'll never open it for a business. It's not anything to make money off of. It's just something that we all agreed needed to be saved for future people to go out and be able to look at it and it not be laying on the ground.
A lot of people consider that don't like to always use this term, but holy grail or crown jewel on the route. Are there maybe one more crown jewel on the route that sticks out to you that you really like along Route 66?
There are a bunch of them, and I'm afraid that if I name them, I'll skip some of them that I think a lot of. But the Painted Desert Trading Post is one of those things where I think some of the allure to it is because it was so hard to get to. It wasn't something you just drove down the highway and there it was on the side of the road. You had to actually make plans and make it a destination to get out to it in the desert. So, but there's many, all the way from Chicago, Lou Mitchell's a couple blocks from the beginning, all the way to the pier. There's just, I would consider probably a couple dozen that I would consider Route 66 icons.
Well, since we're coming from Springfield, Missouri, are there anyone in Springfield or in the Missouri route, section of Route 66 is special to you or important to you?
Well, you might be able to help me. There's a few through St. Louis, and one of my favorite places is around Arlington, Missouri, John's Modern Cabins and Devil's Elbow. Munger Moss has always been one of my favorite places on the route, as well as the Gasconade Bridge. I could name them all the way across the state. There's Gary Turner's, there's Spencer's, and Red Oak 2, which is just a little ways off Route 66. The courthouse, the 66 drive-in theater in Carthage, and it just, if I thought a minute, I could probably name you 25 or 30 I like in Missouri.
Down the street right now, down Route 66.
I don't want to forget Rail Haven. That's another great place.
Yeah.
Judy, do you have any that stick in your mind as far as your favorites along the route that are sentimental or special to you?
Well, of course, Gary's place, has a big place in my heart, and I'm so thankful. His son Steve has helped out there, but his daughter Barb, she moved from another state to come here, her and George, and it's like she took right up where her dad left off, and she is a female Gary. Like, everybody loves her, she's a wonderful woman, and she's taken what was out there and honestly made it even better as far as cosmetically and everything. That's just her. She's just so full of life and energy.
For future travelers of Route 66 that might see this, how do you recommend someone travel Route 66? Or what are some pointers, maybe some ideas to help them out?
Well, some people come and they think, I'm going to take a week or maybe 2 weeks and start in Chicago and end up in California or vice versa. And for me, that would be a nightmare because you are just going to rush through and you're not going to see it all. You're not going to have time to meet the people. And that is the draw of Route 66, is taking your time. You're going at a slower pace. You're not on the interstate, so you don't need to be in a rush. So I think that people should just take it in chunks, and that's what we do. We'll take, here's a chunk. We're going to start out here and go to here, and along the way we're going to stop and see this, and this, and visit with this person and that person. And then the next time we have time for a trip, then we'll do something else. And that's the way to really enjoy it. And you'll also find out what parts you love the most, revisit those parts, and then start making plans to do the whole route over again, section by section. Do you have anything to add to that?
Well, just that I'm old, so I don't use the navigational apps yet.
We like Jerry's Easy Guide.
But Jerry's Easy Guide, Jerry McClanahan in Oklahoma, the Easy Guide and the Here It Is state-by-state maps, using those make your travel so much easier, because when you think of Route 66 going across the country, and then they replaced it with this big wide interstate that was going basically on top of this really curvy road, you might go 3 miles on one side of the interstate, and you've got to cross over the overpass to get on the other side to go 3 or 4 miles. And if you don't have those maps and following along, before long you're driving along, and you realize, I haven't been on Route 66 the last 10 miles, so you have to turn around and go back. So one of the things that makes it easier for us is having those maps and kind of looking at them very often to make sure that we're still actually on the route. Some states mark it really well, and other states they're not marked as well, and you think you're on it but you're not. So that helps to guide you so that you don't have so many turnarounds. But some of our trips, I think we probably do as many U-turns as we do right or left turns.
Yeah.
So
Well, even on the wrong turn, you're still going to run into small town America, Americana, things that are going to be new to you and unique to you.
absolutely, some of the neatest stuff we see have been when we were turning around and we were trying to get back on the route.
Yeah, in other words, you were lost and no telling what you ran
Yes.
across.
Sure.
Well, Judy, from my past knowledge, you are involved in not only helping out in Springfield and Missouri Route 66 Association, but you also have a business. Would you like to tell us a little bit about your business?
Yes. After he gave me the bug of the love of Route 66, I was very passionate about it. I mean, I always will be very passionate about it. I noticed I had some difficulty in finding like shirts that I would like that were American made, and I'm not saying anything against anybody that does it any other way at all, but it's just that my dad was very patriotic. He continues to be, and so I think he instilled that in me. And so I wanted color, I didn't want every shirt to be black or black with some white on it or maybe some gray or orange. I wanted variety, and I wanted not some characteristic of something, but I wanted, actual photos along the route. And so I love photography, so I went through my pictures, and it was kind of trial and error of what works and what doesn't work. But so now I have a screen printer locally, and she works with me on my shirts and the designs. I send her the pictures, and we go from there.
And how can they reach out to you through social media, through email? What's your methods of contact?
Yes, I'm on, rjsroute66.com is our web address. You can reach us that way. We're on Instagram, RJ's Route 66, and also on Facebook under RJ's Route 66. So either of those ways.
And do you have a website?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's the rjsroute66.com.
Any parting words that either one of you would like to give?
Well, I'd just like to say that if I look distracted, it's because we are at the Springfield, Missouri History Museum, and we're in the new Route 66 exhibit, which we're anxious to start walking around and look at because it really looks awesome. But Mark put us right in front of, and I hope he'll show a picture before he shuts off his video, of a 57 Chevrolet that is exactly the same color as my first car, which was a 1957 Chevrolet. So if you see me wandering around and staring at this the whole time of the interview, it's because Mark put us in front of a
Yes.
57 Chevrolet.
I've been doing that too. I'm get distracted and I'm looking around, so forgive me for doing that.
Well, when I first met Richard and Judy, I didn't realize how quickly they would become some of my best friends on Route 66. They're top-notch, superb. You can't ask for better, more down-to-earth, and just good folk than what these two people are. And before I get choked up on it, because I love Route 66, I love my Route 66 family. I've only been traveling it myself for right at a year, and it's one of the most impactful things that's ever come along, and I'm very blessed to be associated with Richard and Judy and the rest of the Route 66 family that I'm associated with. And for now, this is Moving Mark with another edition of my Route 66 Spotlight video with Richard and Judy Walker. Everyone have a great day, and stay tuned for a blooper whenever we show the car Richard was talking about.
Okay, this is my distraction, 1957 Chevrolet, and I've got to see if they've got that. Oh, they've got it where it won't open. But one of my embarrassing things was buying my first car, pulling into a gas station, not knowing where to put gas. If you look, both fins are just alike. This opens up and the gas cap is under this piece of chrome here. So that's my distraction. 57 Chevrolet Bel Air, Joe Sonderman type.
Well, the key is hopefully his had the front half. This one's been modified, and just the back, because even the trunk is being used for a place to sit down and watch a Route 66 video. And I'm gonna put you on the spot here, Richard. What was your most fond moment that you can say in front of Judy that happened in this car?
Probably when I bought it for $175. I drove it a year in high school. It smoked. The transmission slipped, and a car dealer come along and offered me $350, and I thought I cleaned house.
With that, this is Moving Mark signing off. Everyone have a great day. Bye-bye now.